Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to lecture number 7 of the subject Business Law. Today's topic of discussion is Contract of Bailment and Pledge. I am Dr. Rama Bansal, working as Assistant Professor at Arya College, Ludhiana, and this is a DTH Swayam Prabha MHRD New Delhi sponsored project. Today we are going to cover the topics like meaning of bailment, classification of bailment, duty and rights of bailer and bailee, law relating to lien, finder of lost goods, termination of bailment, meaning of pledge, rights and duties of pani and paner, and at last pledge by non-owners. Let's start with the discussion. So, first of all, we are going to discuss the meaning of bailment. What is the bailment? Bailment basically, the word is taken from the French language, from the word bailer, which means to deliver the goods. When the goods are being delivered on the condition of redelivering of goods to the another person for some specified purpose, this type of contract is known as contract of bailment. Section 148 even defines bailment as the delivery of goods by one person to another for some purpose. For some specified purpose, the goods must be delivered upon a contract that they shall, when the purpose is accomplished, be returned. Means the goods are to be redelivered after the purpose is accomplished or otherwise disposed of according to the directions of the person delivering them. That means, in short, when the goods are being delivered to another party on the condition that the goods would be redelivered after the accomplishment of some specified purpose, this type of contract is a contract of bailment. It contains two parties. One is a bailer, second one is the bailee. The person who delivers the goods is known as the bailer, and the person to whom the goods are being delivered for some specified purpose, that is known as bailee. There are a few essentials of a valid contract of bailment. Let's read them. The first one is the delivery of goods. Contract of bailment only includes change of position, change of possession of goods, not the change of ownership. The ownership would remain with the same person who was the actual owner of the things. The goods would be delivered only for some specified purpose with the condition to redeliver. And mere the custody without possession does not create any kind of the contract of bailment. A servant having custody of goods of his master in his absence, or if any guest coming to the home or coming to some farmhouse use the goods of his host, is not a bailee. For bailment, the delivery of goods is the must condition. Let's see the example. A lady employed a goldsmith for making new ornaments out of her old jewelry. Every evening, she received the unfinished jewelry and put it into a box kept at the goldsmith's shop. She kept the key of the box with herself only. One night, the jewelry was stolen from the box. It was held that there was no bailment, as the goldsmith had re-delivered to the lady the jewelry bailed with him. Means the goods were re-delivered to the lady. The goods were not available with the goldsmith. So, the condition of delivery of goods with the bailee is must to accomplish the contract of bailment. The delivery of goods may be either actual or constructive. In case of actual delivery, the goods are actually transferred, as we have seen in the last example of goldsmith and a lady. In the case of constructive delivery, the keys or some kind of papers can be transferred to the another person. So there is a case of Ulton versus Nicholas. Let's see the case. The facts of the case are, in this case, the plaintiff went to the defendant's restaurant for the purpose of dining there. When the plaintiff entered the restaurant, a waiter took the plaintiff's coat from him without being requested to do so. Means the person has not requested to take his coat, but the waiter of the restaurant has taken and hung it on a hook behind the plaintiff. When the plaintiff wanted to leave after his dinner, he found that the coat had been lost. It was held that defendant was the bailee of the court and his servant had assumed the position of the same, and he was liable for the loss. That means once the goods are delivered to the another person, so any kind of loss is, if occurred, it is the responsibility of the bailee to recover that loss. That means the bailee is liable for that loss. Second is, delivery of goods must be for some purpose. That means if the goods are delivered by mistake, that is not a case of bailment. In bailment, the goods must be delivered intentionally for some purpose. The bailee is required to return the goods after he accomplished with his purpose. Means once the purpose of the bailment is achieved, the goods are to be returned. Let's see the example. If a person takes jewelry to wear it during an occasion, he is only a bailee and is under an obligation to return the jewelry after the occasion. That means in this example, the purpose was to wear the jewelry for an occasion. Once the occasion is over, that means the purpose of delivery of goods is over. In that case, the bailee has to return the jewelry to the original owner. Third one is the movable goods. The goods must be of movable nature. The bailment is only possible in case of movable goods. Money is never included in the movable goods, and transfer of immovable property is also not the case of bailment. Next, the contract of bailment arises with the contract. That means there must be a contract between the two parties of the bailment. If there is no contract, there is no bailment. It is cleared from the case of Ram Gulam versus Government of UP. So facts of the case are, some stolen ornaments belonging to the plaintiff were recovered by the police, but while the ornaments were in the custody of police, they were again stolen and this time they could not be recovered. So what happened? The plaintiff sued the government for the loss of ornaments, but this action was dismissed by the Allahabad court on the ground that the possession of goods was not under a contract. Since ornaments were not delivered under a contract, the government never occupied the position of a bailee. So, as we have seen in this case, the ornaments were never being transferred, never being delivered under a contract. So, when there is no contract between the parties, the bailment does not arise, the contract of bailment does not arise, and the other party cannot be treated as a bailee, as in this case the government is never considered as the bailee, hence the government is not responsible for the loss. There is one more condition, that minor, as we know, can't enter into a contract, hence he cannot be held liable as a bailee. But if the goods are in the possession of minor, then the minor can be compelled to redeliver the goods. That means minor cannot be a bailee, but if the goods are with the bailee, so the minor can be compelled to deliver them back to the original owner. An exception to this contract feature is the finder of lost goods, because we know the finder of lost goods is in a position of bailee and has the responsibility to to deliver the goods to the original owner. And here there is no express contract. This contract arises only by the operation of law, and this is a valid contract. The next condition of the essentials of a contract of bailment is return of goods. If the goods are not returned after the accomplishment of the purpose, this is not a valid bailment. That means if the goods are not delivered back, there is no contract of bailment. Goods may be returned either in the original form or maybe in the altered form. Let's see the example. When a piece of cloth is given to a tailor for being stitched, a contract of bailment is established. The tailor is under an obligation to return the cloth duly stitched. That means the goods delivered by the bailor to the bailee can be returned in original as it was given and in the altered form as we have read in the case of example. Goods are delivered to the tailor in the form of a piece of cloth wherever these are being returned to the bailor after stitching. So that means the delivery in original or in altered form, both are acceptable in a valid contract of bailment. Now let's see the kinds of bailment. There are two kinds of bailment, two types of bailment: voluntary and involuntary bailments, gracious and non-gracious bailments. So first is the voluntary and involuntary bailments. In case of voluntary bailment, there is an express contract between both of the parties. Means both of the parties with intention come to a contract that we are going to make a contract of bailment. There is a express willingness of both the parties. But in case of involuntary bailment, the contract of bailment arises by the operation of law, as in case of founder of lost goods. If any person found some good on road, on anywhere, he is responsible to return those goods to the original owner, and that time the finder of lost goods is behaving like a bailee. He has to redeliver the goods to the original bailor, but this contract, this responsibility is not by the express contract. This is by the involuntary way, and this arises because of operation of law. So there is a type of bailment, that is either it may be voluntary bailment or it may be involuntary bailment. Second is gracious and non-gracious bailments. In gracious bailment, bailee keeps the goods for the bailor without any reward. Means he is having the goods of the bailor, he is taking care of the goods of the bailor, but without any reward. He is not being given anything in lieu of that. But in case of non-gracious bailment, there is a consideration which passes between the parties of the contract. There is example: a motor car let out for hire, goods given to a carrier for carriage at a price, is an example of non-gracious bailment. Now, as I said, there are two parties in the contract of bailment. There is a bailor and bailee. So, bailor and bailee both have their rights and duties. Let's start with their rights, the rights of the bailor. So, first of all, the first right is the enforcement of rights. Once the bailor is behaving a bailor, he has delivered the goods to the bailee, and then he has a right to claim compensation for the loss caused to the goods by the negligence of the bailee. That means if due to the negligence of the bailee there is some loss to the goods of the bailor has the right to claim the compensation for the loss occurred to the goods. Next, he has a right to claim compensation for unauthorized mixing of bailed goods with the bailee's own good. Basically, when the goods are being delivered to the bailee, there is a responsibility of the bailee that he should not mix the bailed goods with his own goods. But once he mixes it, then the bailor has a right against him to get the compensation for unauthorized mixing of goods. And the bailer can also claim damages for unauthorized use of goods. Means if in any case, if the bailee has used the goods unauthorized in unauthorized form, and the bailer comes to know about that, then in that case, bailer has a right to claim the damages from the bailee for unauthorized use of goods. And after expiry of purpose or expiry of time, the bailer has the right to get the goods back. And last is to claim any natural accretion to the goods bailed. If some accretion has happened to the goods bailed, the bailer has a right to claim that accretion from the bailee. If the bailer has given his cow to the bailee, and in the meantime there is a calf from the cow, now the bailer has a right to get cow as well as the calf from the bailee. Next right of the bailer is under section 153 is right of termination. Contract of bailment is always voidable at the option of the bailer. If bailer thinks that, or if bailer came to know that bailee is doing something inconsistent with the goods or something with the conditions of the bailment, the bailer can always ask for the termination of the contract of bailment. Let's see the example. A lets to B for hire a horse for his own riding. B drives the horse in his carriage. A can terminate the bailment. As we can see in the example, A has given the horse to B for own riding, for riding purpose, whereas B is using it for some other purpose, means in his carriage. So there is inconsistency with the conditions of the bailment on the part of bailee. So when it comes to the knowledge of the bailer can terminate this contract of bailment. Next point is return of goods lent graciously. If bailer has given some goods to the bailee graciously, so the bailer can demand the return of goods whenever he pleases to do that. If return before stipulated time is causing some kind of loss to the bailee, so the bailer must indemnify the bailee for such kind of loss. In other words, when the goods were given to the bailee has to be benefited. But if the return of the goods before the stipulated time is causing any kind of loss to the bailee, then the bailee can claim that loss from the bailer, means bailer has a responsibility to indemnify that loss to the bailee. Next is compensation from a wrongdoer. If third party, not the bailer, not the bailee, if the third party does something wrongful act and deprives the bailee from use of goods, or is doing some kind of injury to the goods, so the bailer has the right to claim the compensation from the wrongdoer. Bailer can even file a suit against the wrongdoer, that when he is depriving the bailee from use of the goods, from authorized use of the goods, and is doing some injury to the goods, bailer has always a right to file a suit or to claim the compensation from the third party. Let's see the example. A delivered 100 bags of sugar to B, a godown keeper, for safe custody. C, by fraud, prepared a fake delivery order for 10 bags of sugar and claimed the delivery from B, which he delivered to him in good faith. A may file a suit for recovery of damages. Here in this example, C is a third party who is doing the wrongful act, and in this case, Mr. A, who is a bailer, can claim the compensation or the damages from Mr. C for doing the wrongful act to the goods. There is a concerned case of Purushottam Das Banarsi Das versus Union of India in this regard. Let's see the facts of the case. A obtained delivery of goods from the railway on a forged receipt of the railway. A pledged those goods to B. So it was held in the case that railway can anytime get the goods back from Mr. B. Next, let's talk about the duties of the bailor. What are the duties of the bailor? Where we know the bailor has rights, there are some duties of the bailor. The first duty is to disclose known facts. So, bailor is always bound to disclose all the material facts of the goods to the bailee. Wherever there are some defects in the goods bailed, he must disclose all those defects to the bailee. When the bailor is aware of the defects, where a bailor is aware of the facts which are the material to the goods bailed, that must be conveyed by the bailor to the bailee. The bailor must see the goods which he gave on hire, if are defective, that must be conveyed. But he cannot later on, he can never later on plead that he was never aware of the defects. Basically, when the goods are being delivered by the bailor, he has the responsibility to check those goods in detail. Later on, it cannot be claimed that he was not aware of the goods. The bailor has the responsibility to examine the goods and to remove all the defects which, with reasonable examination, can be removed. But if he doesn't detect the defects, or he does not disclose the facts to the bailee, he is liable to give the damages to the bailee. Let's see the example. A hires a carriage of B. The carriage is unsafe, though B is not aware of it, and A is injured. So B is responsible to pay for the injury. Even though the B was not aware of the facts, but the goods are belonging to the bailor, to Mr. B, and if A got injured from those goods, it is a responsibility of the bailor to pay for those injuries. So it is the fact that bailor must know the facts, the defects of the goods bailed. Second is to bear extraordinary expenses of bailment. Section 158 says that bailor has a duty to reimburse the bailee where the bailment is gracious, means without any reward, and the bailee is to receive no remuneration, means where bailee is not receiving any kind of consideration, any kind of remuneration, any kind of reward. There the bailor has a duty to reimburse the bailee if he has spent something for the bailment of the goods, and the bailor shall pay the bailee all necessary expenses incurred for the purpose of the bailment. Let's see the example. If bailee incurs medical expenses for a sick horse, or expenses for the recovery of the stolen horse, it is a duty of the bailor to reimburse the bailee in case of the gracious bailment. Next point is to receive back the goods. There is a main condition in the contract of bailment, means once the purpose is over, the goods are to be given back to the bailor, and it is a duty of the bailor to receive the goods back on expiry of the term of bailment or on fulfillment of the purpose of bailment. Next is to indemnify bailee for losses. If any loss has been occurred due to imperfect title of the bailor to the goods, that loss is to be indemnified by the bailor to the bailee. In this example, B gives Q's motorcycle to R for use without Q's knowledge or permission. Q sued R and receives compensation. So in this case, A is always entitled to recover his losses from P. So R is entitled to recover his losses from B. So this is the case. Next is duty to bear normal risk. So it is a duty of the bailor to bear the normal loss to the goods in case of deterioration, in case of destruction of the goods bailed. If bailee has given the proper care, he has taken the proper responsibility of the goods bailed, and even though there is a deterioration, there is a destruction, the bailor has a duty to bear all those normal risk. Now we talk about the rights of the other party, that is the bailee. So one is enforcement of rights. Bailee can file a suit to enforce the duties of the bailer. If in any case bailer is not fulfilling the duties as discussed previously, the bailee has a right to sue the bailer. Second is bailment by several joint owners. Section 165 of Indian Contract Act says that if there are several joint owners of the goods and they have bailed them to the bailee, and the bailee can deliver them back only to a one joint owner without the consent of all in absence of agreement to the contrary. Next is right to compensation. If the bailer has no title of goods and bailee in good faith delivers them back, the bailee would be responsible to the owner in respect of such delivery. Next is right to remuneration. Under section 158, if bailee is to receive no remuneration for the goods bailed to him, that means it's a gracious bailment. In that case, the bailee has a right to claim all the necessary expenses incurred by him for the bailment. Next is right to claim damages. If any kind of damage has been occurred due to the bailment to the bailee has right to claim them. Bailee has the right to know the faults in the goods bailed to him. If there is any fault in the goods bailed, he has a right, the bailee has a right that bailer should tell him, bailer should convey him that these are the defects, these are the faults in the goods bailed. And if the bailer do not convey all this, then the bailee has the right to receive compensation for any loss due to that fault in the goods. However, in case of bailment for hire, bailee can claim for even those faults of which bailer was not aware of. Next is right of third person claiming goods bailed. If any person other than bailer claims the goods, then bailee may apply to court to stop delivery of goods and to decide the true title of the goods under section 167. Next right of bailee is right to sue. If someone is wrongfully depriving the bailee to use or possession of the goods, then he has the remedy against the wrongdoers. He can sue them. He can sue the wrongdoers because he has the same rights as that of the bailer, means the owner. Next, the most important right of the bailee is the right of lien. Now, what is the right of lien? Lien is the right of the person who has possession of goods to retain the goods in the possession till then, till when all the debts due to him are being satisfied. Means till there are some debts due against the bailer, the bailee has right to retain the goods with himself, to retain the possession of the goods with himself, because once the possession is lost, lien is also lost. And this type of lien is also known as the possessory lien. And right of lien can be exercised for only realization of the debt, even when an action for recovery of debt is time barred. Let's see the example. X delivers his watch to Y for repair and agrees to pay rupees 300 for it. After that, he does not turn up for 3 years. Here, the time of 3 years is a limited time for any transaction related with the money recovery. Neither Y try to trace him. After 3 years, X come to Y and demands back his watch without paying rupees 300 to him. So now in this case, this is a time bar debt. Even then, Y can retain the possession of X watch until his charges are paid. So this is the right of lien. Now, the lien can be of two types. One is a particular lien, second one is the general lien. What is a particular lien? Bailee has the right to retain the goods until his all dues are being paid. Section 170 explains that where the bailee has rendered some services involving the exercise of labor or some skill on some specified goods bailed, he has the right to retain those goods until he receive the remuneration or receive the consideration for those goods. This right extends to only retention of goods, not to right of sale of goods. I repeat it again, it's very important to know here, the bailee has the right only to retain, not to sell. Let's see the example where bailor sends his car to bailee for repair. The bailee has lien on the car for the cost of repair. He cannot sell the car till his all debts are being paid. He cannot sell the car. He can just have the car. He can just retain the car in his possession. There is a leading case in this context, that is Edgley versus Cafe John Brothers. Let's see the facts of the case. The case is relating to the contract of sales of goods. The seller sold a second hand refrigerator and also delivered the same to the buyer. After some time, there was some trouble in the refrigerator, and two parts of the same were taken out and sent to the seller for repair again. The seller, to whom the price had not been paid, wanted to exercise the right of lien over these parts. But it was held that seller's right of lien had come to end when he had delivered the refrigerator to the buyer, and the right was not renewed by his getting the possession of some parts of it again. That means the particular lien arises and retains until the goods are being redelivered. If the goods are once being redelivered, the right of lien is lost. As in this case, once the refrigerator was being delivered, and for recovery of the cost, for recovery of the repair price, again when the goods come to the repairer, the bailee wants to retain the goods, and it was held in the case that because once the lien was lost, once the right of lien was lost, again when the goods are being with the repairer, they cannot be retained as under the right of lien. Once the possession of goods is lost, the right of lien is also lost. Next, certain conditions must be fulfilled before exercising the right of a particular lien. What are those conditions? One is the bailee must have rendered some services. Means when the goods were bailed, the bailee has done something on goods by using the labor or by using some kind of skills required for the purpose. The labor or skill must have been exercised in accordance with the purpose of bailment. Means when the goods were bailed, there was some purpose of bailment, and when any skill or labor is being done on those goods, and this must be with some purpose. Means with what purpose the goods were delivered, the exercise of labor or skill must be done with that purpose only. Under particular lien, only those goods can be retained on which bailee exercised trouble and expense. That's why it is known as the particular lien. Means only those goods can be retained on which bailee has done some expenses, or has given the labor, or has put his skills on that. The right does not accrue until the services have been performed and remuneration has become due. Means if the services are not being performed yet, in that case the right of lien does not accrue. The possession of goods is an essential condition for lien. Means goods must be in the possession of the bailee if he wants to go with the right of particular lien. Bailee can exercise this lien provided there is no contract to contrary. Means if there is any contract if there is any term in the contract of bailment that bailee cannot use the right of particular lien, then he cannot use. Means if there is no contract to contrary, only then the right of particular lien can be exercised. Now we come to the second type of lien, that is a general lien. Section 171 refers to the general lien. With general lien, right is only available with bankers, factors, attorneys and policy makers. Otherwise this right is not available to anyone else, and they person may claim on goods bailed as security for a general balance of account. General lien entitles a person in possession of goods to retain until all claims of the person in possession against the owners of goods are satisfied. Means, if I say in other words, means any kind of goods can be any kind of goods of the bailer can be retained until all claims of the person are being satisfied. It is not required, as in the case of a particular lien, to keep only those goods on which labor is being extended. Here, in case of general lien, any kind of goods can be retained for claiming the charges from the bailer. So no other person except mentioned above has this right unless there is a express contract to that effect. So there are we have discussed so far the rights of the bailee. Now let's discuss the duties of the bailee. Under the duties of bailee, the first duty is to take responsible care of goods bailed. Section 151 says that because when the goods were bailed, they were checked, they were totally the all the facts were disclosed to the bailee. Now it is a responsibility of the bailee to give a good care of the goods as a man of ordinary prudence would take care of his own goods. And where bailee has taken the same care to the goods as he would give to his own goods, and then even then if there is some destruction or deterioration of the goods, then in that case bailee is not responsible for that, because he has given the same care to the goods of the bailer as he was giving to his own goods. And but where the bailee falls below the standards, means he has not given the same kind of care to the goods of the bailer, he would be held liable for the loss or damages of the goods. But yes, bailee is not answerable for any act of the god, means if there is any fire, there is any war, there is a flood due to which goods are being destroyed or deteriorated, for all those purposes he is not liable. But here a condition is that he must have kept the goods under lock and key where the goods can be properly taken care of. Means in short, if the bailee has given the good care to the goods as a man of ordinary prudence can do, and if even then the loss is there, he is not responsible. But where he has fallen below the standard of the good care, he has to bear the loss. Let's see the example. Silver was entrusted to a goldsmith for making ornaments. He kept it locked in an almirah and employed a watchman for the night. In spite of these precautions, means this can be considered as a proper care of goods. In spite of these precautions, the silver was stolen. So the goldsmith had taken responsible care of goods, so he cannot be held liable for the loss of ornaments. There is also a matching case of Martin versus London Country Council. Let's see the facts of the case. In this case, the plaintiff was admitted as a patient to the paid hospital of defendant. After being admitted, she entrusted a gold necklace and a cigarette case to the officials of the hospital. Said officials kept the article in a drug form where they were stolen. The King Bench of England held the defendants liable because they were guilty of not having taken as much care as was required. So it is clear from the one example and the another case, means if the proper care is being given by the bailee, he is not responsible for any loss. And if the proper care is not being given to the goods bailed, he is responsible for the goods bailed. Second duty of the bailee is duty not to make unauthorized use of goods. Because the goods are with the bailee for some specified purpose. If bailee is using the goods out of that purpose, means he is making the unauthorized use of goods, then he would be liable for any loss to the goods. Even in that case, the act of God would be no defense for the bailee. He has to give the recovery charges, or he has to give the damages of the goods bailed to the bailer. his liability for the goods at that time is the liability as it is of a insurer of the goods. So let's see the example. A lends a horse to B for his own riding only. B allows C, a member of his family, to ride the horse. C rides with proper care, but the horse accidentally falls and is injured. So here B is making the unauthorized use of goods, means unauthorized riding of the horse to the sea. So B is liable to make compensation to pay for the injury done to the horse. Next is duty not to mix bailor's good with his own goods. Bailey, there is always a duty of the bailee to not to mix his own goods with the goods of the bailor. But there are the provisions if this act is being done under section 155. If bailee mixes the goods of the bailor and his own goods with the consent of the bailor, then both shall have an interest in proportion to their respective shares. And section 156 defines that if goods are mixed without consent of the bailor, and later on the goods can be separated, means goods are of such nature that they can be separated, in that case the expenditure of separation would be borne by the bailee. But in last case under section 157, if separation of goods is such that it is not possible to make the goods separate, then in that case bailor is entitled to be compensated by the bailee for the loss of goods. Let's see the example. X bales 200 bales of cotton marked with a particular mark to Y. Y without X consent mixes the 200 bales of cotton with his other own bales. X is entitled to have his 200 bales returned, and Y is bound to bear all the expenses incurred in the separation of the bales. Next duty of the bailee is not to set up any adverse title against the bailor. Means if any person bailee finds that has the better title of the goods than of the bailor, then the bailee may safely return the goods to the bailor. He will not be liable to the owner for any kind of the conversion, means he has not to set any adverse title against the bailor. He is responsible to return the goods only to the bailor. And if there is any accretion to that, he is also required to give that to the bailee. There is a case of Motilal Hirabhai versus Buy Money. Let's see. The Privy Council held that the new shares allocated in respect of old shares pledged by a person are increase or profit within the meaning of section 163, and hence the pledger can successfully claim them. Means if there is any accretion to the value of the goods, that value is also to be returned to the bailor. Next is duty to return the goods. Bailee has a duty to return the goods bailed under section 160 to the bailor. Under section 160, bailee is liable to return the goods on the expiry of purpose or the expiry of time. There is no need that bailor must ask for returning of the goods. Bailee need not to wait to demand the goods, but he has to return the goods after the expiry of purpose or expiry of time. In case he is failed to return the goods, so in that case bailee would be responsible for any deterioration and destruction of the goods. And in case of several joint owners, bailee can deliver the goods to one joint owner only without the consent of all the owners. And bailee who redelivers the goods to the bailor in ignorance of his true title is not liable to the rightful owner, because at the same time bailee has the duty not to set any adverse title against the bailor. Let's see the example. B delivered certain goods to D, a bookbinder, who promised to bind and return them within a reasonable time. He could not complete the job within a reasonable time. The books were subsequently burnt in an accidental fire in his premises. So B was held liable in damages for loss of books because he has not returned the goods to the bailor. Next, After discussing the duties and rights of bailer and bailee, let's now come to the termination of the bailment when the contract of bailment comes to an end. There are many ways, as shown in the diagram, there are many ways through which a bailment comes to an end, means bailment, contract of bailment is terminated. So let's discuss them. The first point is on the expiry of the period. As we have already discussed, bailment is done for a specified purpose. Bailment is done for a specified period. Means once there is a expiry of the period mentioned for the bailment, the contract of bailment is terminated. Let's say the example: if bailer has bailed the goods with the bailee for the period of 1 month, the period of 1 month would automatically terminate the contract of bailment. In other words, when the period of 1 month is over, the contract of bailment is terminated. Second is on the achievement of the object. If some task, some purpose is being assigned to the bailee and the goods are bailed with that purpose to the bailee, so in this case, on the achievement of that objects, the contract of bailment is terminated. As we have already discussed the example, when a piece of cloth is being transferred to the tailor to stitch it, once the piece of cloth is stitched as per the instructions given by the bailer, the purpose of achievement, the purpose of bailment is over. So in that case, once the achievement of the object is there, the bailment is already terminated. Inconsistent use of goods, and if in any case, if bailer founds that bailee is using any bailee is doing any inconsistency with the goods bailed, he can always demand the goods back from the bailee. And once the goods are back with the bailer, it is already the termination of the contract of bailment. Destruction of the subject matter. The goods, if are being destroyed due to any reason, it may be man made reason or it may be some god's act. So if the subject matter of the goods bailed is destructed, means the subject matter is over, no existence of subject matter is there, so it will lead to the termination of the contract of bailment. Gracious bailment: in case the goods are being bailed without any consideration, the purpose is over, the termination of bailment is there. Death of the bailer or bailee: means if any of the party of the contract of bailment is dead, the contract of bailment will automatically terminated. Means out of these six, if any of the reason arises, it would lead to termination of contract of bailment. So we have read in this that there is a some contract arises which is due to the operation of the law. The contract of the contract between the finder of lost goods and the owner of goods is such kind of a contract where there is no contract, no express contract, but this type of bailment contract arises because of operation of law. So what is the finder of lost goods and what are his rights and obligations? Let's see quickly. Section 71 lays down that a person who finds goods belonging to another and takes them into his custody is subject to the same responsibility as a bailee. That's why we are reading this topic here, because the finder of lost goods is having the responsibility of a bailee. He is treated as a bailee because this contract is not an express contract. This contract comes with the operation of law, and the finder of lost goods is a person who found the goods of any other person which do not belong to him, but he has the responsibility to return those goods to the actual owner. So in this case, when any person finds some lost goods, he has some kind of rights and some kind of obligations with him. So under the rights, the first right is the right of lien. As we have already studied, right of lien means to keep the goods with himself under the true owner is being found. right of sale. If after all the true efforts, if all the possible efforts, the person, the bailee, could not find the true owner, he can sell the goods to recover his expenditure, to recover the money spent for finding the true owner. Next, a right to sue for reward. If the finder of lost goods gets success to find the true owner, then he can sue the true owner for the reward or to recover all the expenses which he had made to find the true owner of the goods. With the rights, he has the obligations. The first obligation is to make the responsible care of the goods. If the finder of lost goods is giving the right care, true care to the goods of the owner, he is fulfilling his obligation. Not to use for own purpose. The finder of lost goods cannot use the goods of some other person for his own purpose. And if he do this and the goods are deteriorated or destroyed, then the true owner may sue him. Next is not to mix goods. The finder of lost goods has a responsibility not to mix the found goods with his own goods, and he has the major responsibility to find the true owner of the goods and to deliver those goods to the owner. So till now we have discussed about the contract of bailment. Now we come to the contract of pledge. What is a pledge? Where the goods are delivered by one person to another. This is the same as this was in the case of the bailment, but the difference makes only with a word, that is to another as a security for payment of a debt or performance of a promise. Means when the goods are delivered to another person as security for payment of debt or to perform something, it means this is a pledge. Means when the goods serve as a security, this is a pledge. Section 172 defines the pledge or pawn as the bailment of goods as security for payment of a debt or performance of a promise is called the pledge. The contract of pledge involves two parties. One is a pledger, or in other words, we can say paner, and pledgee, or the other terms, it's a pani. The person who delivers the goods is known as pledger, and the person to whom goods are being delivered is known as pledgee or pani. Normally, we use the term paner and pani. What are the essentials of a valid pledge? There must be delivery of possession. Delivery should be upon a contract. Delivery should be for the purpose of security and should be upon a condition to return. Let's see them all. First is delivery of goods. As we have discussed in case of bailment, the delivery of goods may be actual delivery or the constructive delivery. Actual means when the goods are being actually delivered as a security in the physical form. This is a actual pledge. But when the delivery of the key of warehouse, means it is a constructive delivery, means goods are not being physically delivered, but the keys of warehouse where the pledge goods are being stored is a good example of a constructive delivery. Pledge involves only a transfer of ownership as in case of bailment, but not the title of the goods. Second point is the delivery of goods should be by way of security. This is the main condition of the pledge, and this is a, you can say it is the main essentials of a pledge. That means, and it demarcate the pledge from the bailment. Means here the goods are being delivered only by the way of the security. The security being for the payment of a debt or performance of a promise. Means here the goods are being given as a security because any debt is still due or any performance is still due, and the other party wants to make it clear. So for that purpose the goods are being delivered as a security. But here the debts may be the present debt, past debt, or the future debts. Past means the debts belongs to the past period. Present, the debts belongs to the present period, and future, it may be the transaction in the future. Pani does not acquire the right of ownership but has a lien on the goods for the payment of debt. We have already discussed the meaning of lien. There are a few rights and duties of the pani. Rights of pani are rights of retainer. He can retain the goods. Section 173 says till he receives his payment or he receives his performance of a promise, he can retain the goods. Next, right of particular lien. As in case of Bailey, Pani enjoys the same right of a particular lien. Till all his debts are cleared, he can keep the custody of a particular article or particular thing with him as a security. Right to extraordinary expenses. If Pani has incurred some kind of extraordinary expenses to retain the goods or to maintain the goods or to keep the goods safe or to keep the goods in the position as desired, so he has the right to claim all those extraordinary expenses from the paner. Pani's rights where paner make defaults. Pani has every right, if every right of a bailee when the paner makes default in the payment of a debt or in not or by not fulfilling the promise of the performance, pani enjoys all the other rights of a bailee. As I have already said, there is a difference of a major condition in the contract of bailment and a contract of pledge, that in pledge the goods are being delivered as a security. So the main right with the pani is he can have the goods with him till all the debts are being cleared. Under the duties of pani, pani is under a duty to take reasonable care of goods pledged with him. As the case of Bailey, the pani has the responsibility to take the reasonable care to the goods, and he is not permitted to use those pledged goods, and he is also bound to give back, to surrender the goods to the paner as soon as his debt is made clear or his promise or the performance of the promise is being done. Next, we come to rights and duties of the paner. The first right is the right to get goods back. Once the payment is being done, once the performance is being done, the paner has the right to receive the goods back from the custody of pani. Let's see the case of M.R. Dhawan versus Madan Mohan. In a case before the Delhi High Court, the pledge was that of certain shares of a company, and during the period of pledge, the company issued bonus shares. So it was held that that increases belong to the paner only. Means if there is any accretion to the goods given as a security, even then the paner has a right to receive that accretion of the goods back. Next is right to redeem debt. If if there is any debt pending against the pani or any third party, the paner has the right to receive it back. Preservation and maintenance of goods, paner has the responsibility of this. Rights of an ordinary debtor. With the rights of the paner, the paner has again a right of an ordinary debtor in the normal cases. When there is any debt due, what kind of rights a debtor enjoys, he has the right to sue, he has a right to recover. So all those rights which are the rights of an ordinary debtor, the paner enjoys that. Under the duties of the paner, the paner has every duty which the bailer has. Means the duties of the bailer and the duties of paner are the same, except there is only one differentiation, that is under the case of pledge, the goods are being transferred only as the purpose of security. So there is one more concept. Normally we say the goods are being pledged by only those persons who are the true owners of the goods. But sometimes when the goods are being transferred by the non-owners, that is also treated as a valid pledge. But let's see there is example where goods were left in a possession of a servant. While the owner was temporarily absent, a pledge made by servant was held to be invalid. Reason being, he is not a true owner of the goods. That means pledge made by the true owner only is valid. A person, however, innocent, who accepts in pledge goods from another, not the owner, acquires no lien on the goods except in few cases. And these cases, the sections 178, 178A, and 179 provides those cases where a pledge of goods made by a person who is not a real owner of the goods, even then the pledge made by them is valid and binding upon the other party. So let's see this. One is pledge by mercantile agents. Any pledge made by the mercantile agents is considered to be the valid pledge. Let's see the example. A salesman of a company pawned the goods of a company. The pani acting in good faith gets a perfect title. So salesman is not a true owner of the goods, but reason being he's the mercantile, he's working on the part of a mercantile agent. So this kind of pledge is being made as a in a good faith is a perfect pledge. Pledge by person in possession under voidable contract means when the pledge is done by the person who has the defective title of the goods. In that case, if any pledge is being made, this is a true pledge, this is a valid pledge. Let's see the example. A gets an ornament by inducing the owner to sell it to him by undue influence. Before the contract is rescinded by the owner, he pawns it to B. B will get a good title to the ornament provided he acted in good faith and he was not aware that the consent of the owner is taken under undue influence. Next is pledge where partner has only a limited interest. Section 179 defines it. What is the meaning of limited interest would be clear through this example. Mr. A finds a watch on the road and repairs it spending rupees 20. He pledges the watch with Mr. B for rupees 40. The true owner, Mr. C, can recover the watch only on paying rupees 20 to the pledgee. Means here the partner has only a limited interest up to rupees 20. Next, pledge by a co-owner in possession means when the goods are being pledged by the co-owner, that is also considered as a valid pledge. Pledge by seller or buyer in possession after sale. If a seller who has got possession of goods even after sale can make a valid pledge provided the pani acts in the good faith. All these are the cases where there is a pledge by the non-owner, even then the pledge is considered as a valid pledge. So if we summarize this lecture, we in this lecture have covered the various concepts of bailment as well as of the pledge. The main important what we have discussed with the what is the bailment, what are the parties of bailment, that is bailer and bailee, and then classification of bailment, gracious, non-gracious bailment, voluntary and involuntary bailment, duties and rights of bailer and bailee both we have discussed. Then we have discussed the right of lien means particular lien and general lien, the lien on a particular thing which was given under the contract of bailment is known as a particular lien, and the lien right exercise on any article to cover all the debts against a person is known as a general lien. Finder of lost goods is always having the responsibility of the bailee. Termination of bailment is possible either of the six ways which we have discussed earlier, means due to any of six, like there is a death of bailer or bailee, there is a completion of task, completion of purpose, expiry of date, means any of the six of the ways may lead to the termination of the contract of bailment. Then we come to the pledge under which the goods are delivered, but the goods are delivered only as a security. We have discussed the rights and duties of the paner and pani, which are almost similar like bailer and bailee. We come to at last with the pledge by non-owners. Non-owners can never pledge the goods, but section 178, 178A and 179 of Indian Contract Act clearly gives the demarcation where the pledge by non-owners are even considered valid and true, and it is binding upon the other party. This is the end of the lecture. Thank you.